The Pixar movie Up is one of the best takes on a different type of stories, with its characters exploring different corners of their personalities and emotions. It's nothing short of beautiful. So, in today's video, we will be following our friends on their trip to Venezuela with their floating house. Strap in, because it might be quite a windy ride. The movie Up was first conceived in 2004, when Pixar animators were trying to make their fantasies of escaping from life when it becomes too irritating to continue living, come to life. The film was initially going to be titled Heliums, but the producers went with a more cheerful nomination. The team that was responsible for making the movie had to travel to Venezuela for 3 days to conduct research and look for creative inspiration. The designs of the characters were heavily caricatured and stylized, and animators were tasked with the difficult task of creating realistic cloth. It was the first time Pixar had shown one of its films in the 3D format. The film Up was shown for the first time on May 13, 2009 at the 62nd Cannes Film Festival. It was then shown for the first time in the United States on May 29. The screenplay, characters, themes, and narrative of the film, as well as the vocal performance of Ed Asner, the musical score composed by Michael Giacchino, and the opening sequence, all garnered praise from film critics. Up was selected as one of the year's top 10 movies by numerous critics groups, including the National Board of Review and the American Film Institute. It finished its run in theaters as the sixth highest-grossing film of 2009, earning a total of $735.1 million all over the world. At the 82nd Academy Awards, Up was nominated for 5 awards, and it ended up winning 2 of those awards. Additionally, it received numerous accolades. A subsequent sequel streaming television series, titled Doug Days, was made available on Disney Plus in the year 2021. The story follows Doug and Carl throughout their lives in the suburbs. The movie starts with Carl Fredricksen, still a bit who was only 10 years old. The child looks up to the adventurer Charles Muntz and had a huge passion for adventure. After being accused of presenting a fake giant bird skeleton from Paradise Falls in South America, Paradise Falls was based on Angel Falls, a freefall waterfall in Venezuela. Muntz returns to the region with the intention of clearing his name by capturing a living specimen of the creature that was supposed to have been found there. Carl meets Ellie, a fellow Muntz enthusiast, and she shares with him her ambition to relocate her clubhouse, which is currently located in an abandoned house in the neighborhood, on a cliff that overlooks Paradise Falls. Later on, Carl gets a job selling balloons, and Ellie gets a job as a tour guide at the zoo. The couple gets married and moves back into the house after it has been renovated. After Ellie has a miscarriage, the couple makes the decision to refocus and start saving for a trip to Paradise Falls. However, they are constantly forced to spend their savings on more immediate needs, so they are unable to make much progress toward their goal. After some time has passed, Carl makes the decision to plan the vacation as a surprise for Ellie. Ellie becomes unwell on the day that Carl intends to inform her, and she is admitted to the hospital. She passes away shortly after her admission. After some time has passed, Carl, who is now retired, refuses to leave the house despite the fact that the neighborhood surrounding him is being redeveloped into tall buildings. After Carl gets involved in an accident in which he hits a construction worker by accident, the court decides that he poses a threat to the general public and orders that he be placed in an assisted living facility. In spite of this, Carl is adamant about keeping Ellie's promise, and so he converts his home into a homemade airship by utilizing a large number of helium balloons and then takes off. Russell, an Asian American wilderness explorer who is just 8 years old, sneaks onto Carl's motorcycle while he is on a mission to obtain his final merit badge for helping the elderly. They run into a storm just as Carl is about to land and send Russell back to his family, which propels the house all the way to South America. The home is situated on a mesa just across from Paradise Falls. Carl and Russell attach themselves to the buoyant house that is still floating in the air and begin walking it across the mesa in the hopes of getting to the falls before the balloons lose their air. Russell had an encounter with a colossal, multicolored, and avian-like creature that he calls Kevin. They later come across Doug, a golden retriever who is outfitted with a unique collar that contains a device that can translate his thoughts into English. Doug decides to accompany them on their journey. Carl, Russell, Doug, and Kevin are brought to their owner, who is revealed to be an elderly Charles Muntz, by a pack of vicious dogs led by the Doberman Pinscher Alpha. He then tells them about his efforts to find the bird while inviting them aboard his dirigible. Carl realizes that Muntz's obsession with finding the bird has driven him insane, to the point where he has killed innocent travelers whom he suspected of also seeking the bird. Muntz's actions lead Carl to this realization. As soon as Muntz realizes that the skeleton looks a lot like Kevin, he takes a hostile stance toward Russell and Kevin since he believes that they are thieves. Carl, Russell, and Doug are being chased by the dogs until Kevin comes to save them. Russell implores Carl to assist Kevin in returning home to be with her chicks, but Muntz intercepts them both and takes her captive. He then sets fire to the ground beneath Carl's house, putting him in the position of having to decide whether or not to save his home or Kevin. Carl makes the decision to save his house. At the falls, Carl looks through Ellie's childhood scrapbook and discovers that she has filled in the blank pages with photos of their marriage. The photos are accompanied by a note that she wrote from her hospital bed, thanking him for the adventure and encouraging him to have a new one. He rushes outside to get some fresh air and finds Russell chasing after Kevin while using a leaf blower and some balloons as a makeshift flying device. Carl declutters his home by getting rid of old furniture and mementos he's kept over the years. Russell is taken captive by Muntz, but Carl and Doug manage to break him and Kevin free once they board the dirigible. When Muntz follows them to the tethered house, Carl uses a piece of chocolate to get Kevin to return to the airship so that they can escape. Muntz makes a desperate attempt to catch up to them by leaping, but the balloon strings trip him up and he falls to his death. When Carl realizes that he can no longer see the house, he makes the decision to give up his attachment to it and move aboard the Spirit of Adventure with Russell and the canine pack. Before heading back to their own base on Muntz's airship, Carl and Russell make sure that Kevin is reunited with her young. Russell is ecstatic to have earned his assisting the elderly badge, and Carl surprises him by giving him the Ellie badge, which is a grape soda bottle cap that Ellie had given to him when they had first met. In the meantime, Carl is unaware that the home has landed on the cliff next to Paradise Falls, so delivering on the promise he made to Ellie. The movie gained worldwide love with its simple yet beautiful style. Unlike the other Pixar movies, Up relied more on a slower-paced plot to introduce us properly to the characters and show us how they interacted with each other, like how Carl and Russell spent most of their time on Carl's floating house. In the end, we can all agree that Up is one of a kind movie that will always have its place in our hearts. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you soon with a brand new recap of another movie. Until then, goodbye.